we take a dip into the world of education, sponsored by our friends at Michigan Virtual. And joining us today is Ed Timke, research specialist for Michigan Virtual Learning Research Institute. Hi, Ed.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So I understand that you do a lot of work on what we call, I guess, the professional health of teachers, burnout, recruitment, how you retain them, et cetera, which is really important because we have teacher shortages all over the country. What have you learned? I understand you just recently did a study here in Michigan about teacher well-being. What's the big takeaways?
Yeah, this past spring, I led a study that assessed Michigan educators' well-being. Unfortunately, things aren't going so well. Among the 278 educators that we surveyed, 85% said they felt burnt out, 75% said they felt overwhelmed by all the stuff that they have to do, and then 60% felt bothered by feeling down, depressed, anxious, or hopeless, and 2/3 felt work disconnected them emotionally. And what was really shocking is that 1/3 of the teachers reported receiving no social or emotional support from their schools or districts in the last school year.
Wow.
And so
it's amazing how much that survey sounds like you talk to everybody on our staff. It's just sad, really. But the burnout part, why is that so significant, particularly in Michigan?
Yeah. And what's the problem with that is that, as one of the survey respondents said, is they can't give anything more once they're empty. And so with things changing constantly, with the pandemic, redesigning classes, that really takes a toll on, the effectiveness of what a teacher can do in the classroom and how much, they can support students in the community.
Well, I think overwork has always been an issue with teachers, at least in the modern world. I mean, teachers it's always been a thankless profession, and they always work way harder than they're compensated for, et cetera. But the burnout part, I think that the pandemic has like everything that you said there is also kind of the way that people talk about the pandemic. What happens going forward? I mean, what happens if COVID becomes a permanent part of our education system? How do we reverse this so that teachers want to stick around?
Yeah, I think one important thing is really listening to teachers and getting them at the table. A recent study that was done looked at, what are some of the things that are burning teachers out, mentally and emotionally, and that was that they didn't feel supported by policymakers, and then just the community. So I think it's making sure they have a seat at the table to talk about what will help them, and then also what they need, because we can throw a bunch of, free group therapy sessions, yoga classes, self-care workshops, and that's not enough. There are a lot of systemic issues that need to happen at the community, district, and state level.
Good to hear and interesting. I'd like to see more about that study. Thank you, Ed, for what you did, and thanks for coming on the program.
Great. Thanks for having me.
Ed Timke there, research specialist for the Michigan Virtual Learning Research Institute. I'd really like to read that report. And I think anybody who's got friends or loved ones in teaching would probably read that too.